Wait till we get there. Oh, yeah, yeah, sure.
Speaker McCarthy.
Not your shirt.
No, I promise, his shirt is not as wrinkled today, so he gets the first question.
Do you have a better sense now that you've been in there about what? how
Well, the
you're
one thing,
funding from it?
look, I talked to the conference. Our goal in taking the majority was to change Washington. For a number of years, I think 5, 8 years, the Senate would never even pass one appropriation bill. We watched at the end of last year what normally would happen in Washington. There's been an omnibus bill that never goes through committee, got jammed. So I pledged that we'd never put an omnibus on the floor. But we did something different in the debt ceiling. We put the 1% cut across the board if you don't pass all 12 bills in the next year. Everybody was upset by it, but I firmly believe structure dictates behavior. You have to change the structure of Washington. And it's tough. People fight it, right? But now we've been able to move on both sides the bills out of the committee. I showed frustration in here because I am frustrated with the committee. I'm frustrated with some people in the conference. We had the DOD appropriation bill yesterday. I couldn't put it on the floor. I don't have one complaint by any member of what's wrong with this bill. We're going to give a pay raise to those E1s that are in there that are only making 20-some thousand up to 30,000. We've got to make sure we're prepared to do it. So I told my conference, I know tomorrow is a Jewish holiday, we will be out of session. But when we come back, we're not going to leave. We're going to get this done. Nobody wins in a government shutdown. Nobody wins in a government shutdown. I've been here. But what we want to do is we want to be able to win the policies that we've been fighting for and telling the American public. We want to make sure our border becomes secure. We want to stop the runaway spending. We've been able to save quite a bit. When the debt ceiling, we want to see the other places we can save here as well. We want to change the wokeism that the Democrats have placed into this government. So there are a lot of things that we are going to work towards. And we're going to get that work done.
When you say you're going to get
in this
this
closed door
done, what are you
meeting-
talking about? This done is the
we're
defense
gonna-
bill or the other
No,
11 bills?
we're going to get the appropriation bills done, and we're going to go into conference with the Senate, and we're going to make sure that we get our border secure, we get our streets safe, we get the funding prioritized, but we also stop this runaway
So
spending.
you're
Speaker
planning-
McCarthy, in this closed door meeting, what was-
One at a time.
in this closed door meeting, what was your message to some members who have threatened to possibly raise a motion to try and oust you as speaker?
Look, threats don't matter, and sometimes people do those things because of personal things, and that's all fine. I focus just like anything else. If you watched, most people get to speak on the first round. It took me 15. I'm a little Irish, okay? So I don't walk away from a battle. I knew changing Washington would not be easy. I knew people would fight or try to hold leverage for other things. I'm going to continue to focus on what's the right thing to do for the American people. And you know what? If it takes a fight, I'll have a fight.
Do you have the votes? You want to pass 12 appropriations bills, but with 16 days left until the government shuts down, are you still committed to passing a continuing resolution to keep the government open?
Look, I think the best ability here is to have that short term. I know how Washington normally works. They would do a continuing resolution having not passed any bills and make it into right before Christmas or a holiday to pressure members into taking some type of bad vote. Remember how much we've changed Washington already. Before, people couldn't even read the bills. Now we make sure you've got 3 days, that not just members read the bill, that America gets to read the bill. I think we continue to pass. I know that we got a short time here, the Senate too, but they're now doing some work as well. We should go into conference, but for a very short time period, so we can get the accomplishments that we need and make the difference.
On the appropriations process, how are you planning to break this logjam on defense? Because the Freedom Caucus has said since the summer, they had a press conference in July, saying on appropriations they want to see the top line number for all 12 appropriation bills, a couple of offsets, and it seems like now they're even asking for just a general sketch on what a CR could look like. Can you provide those things for them?
We have provided those things for the last 3 months.
They haven't seen
I
it.
know.
Could I just-
Look, like any other week, we got challenges, but it depends on the day of the week based upon the questions you have. At the end of the time, we get the job done.
Could I just-
So we'll continue to do that as well. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, did you tell your critics who threatened to file a motion to vacate to bring it on?
What was the exact language
Yeah,
you
what was the
used, if
language?
you don't mind sharing with us?
I mind sharing. we just had a discussion in there. And really, this was a special conference. to give the update because, as you know, Congress has been out of session for more than a month. A lot has transpired and learned for the American people in the last month. What we learned by bringing in Hunter Biden's business partner is that the President Biden had lied to the American public. That yes, he did talk to his son, but he did more than talk to his son. He got on conference calls when his son was selling the brand with his clients. He literally went to dinners, which we never knew. And after the dinners, his son got a Porsche and then more than $3 million. Now, I know CNN said something yesterday. They went through and said that didn't want to do fact checks on everything that I laid out. What was interesting was the headline, but more interesting in the fact checks, it was all true. They had to acknowledge that every alleged accusation that put us into impeachment inquiry is true. I appreciate CNN actually acknowledged that. Because I'm not sure, based upon how many of you got the memo from the White House legal counsel on what you should say. I didn't know that was the role of the White House to try to control the media. I thought you had a First Amendment opportunity. Let me answer my question. Answer your question. And then in this special conference here, we also learned that the president used false names in emails. Now, you're reporters. Why would a government individual do that? Would that be if you wanted to use a FOIA that you couldn't find what they were communicating? And lo and behold, there's more than 5,400 of those while he was vice president. And in that, it would also show that the president had lied to the American public. Because there is one in there, because we haven't been able to see them yet, that is a direct email to the vice president in this false name, along with his son Hunter Biden, about Ukraine. Now remember what we also have, we have an FBI informant that we'd found that had alleged the Bidens took a bribe. Then we also have found that you have a staffer that worked in the vice president's office that talked to Hunter Biden's business partner and said the vice president has signed off on the Burisma talking points. We learned during break that Hunter Biden, along with his business partner on the Burisma board, the Ukrainian energy company, that when he got those hundreds of thousands of dollars that he never had to pay taxes on, and we learned that the statute of limitations had run out, knowingly by the Department of Justice allowed that to happen. But what we found during this break period was there was a lot of pressure on Hunter Biden to call Washington and do something about it. Then we have watched where the vice president literally bragged to America that he took that $1 billion of taxpayer money and leveraged the Ukraine government to fire their prosecutor. So knowing your whole job is always asking questions, trying to find answers, you would want to find the answers to these questions. That was part of what our special conference was about, laying out all this information that has newly come out in the last month when members were gone so they could know, and that probably answers the questions, why would you move to impeachment inquiry? And then we had the House legal counsel here to explain to us that impeachment inquiry has in Congress been used many times. It didn't have to have any vote, but when you move to impeachment inquiry, it empowers the House, that means all House members, Republicans and Democrats, to be able to have more power to get the information they need in any investigation to get answers.
Congressman Issa mentioned.
I just, on the appropriations thing, I want to just drill down for a second. You are saying now that you're going to pass all 12 of these bills and go into conference with the Senate?
Look, what I would like to do, look, my goal is to pass all 12. If we can't pass all 12, to get into conference. Getting into conference is better for the American public, that they can see what has gone through committee. It's stronger to pass on the floor. I've been trying to pass them for quite some time, individually. And get into conference. What happens inside conference, so everybody knows, members on both sides sit there and work out the differences between the two bills. The Senate, they want to spend a lot more money. The House, we're much more conservative. We want to save the taxpayers' money. We want to eliminate the wokeism. We want to protect our border. I know that makes it very hard on this administration when they want to have a wide-open border. And in doing so, we can change our differences. I don't think it's productive to have a government shutdown during that time. I don't know who wins, and I don't know how that, watching the shutdowns before, how is that productive to get the objectives that you want to achieve for the American public? So I would like to make that all happen, and we're going to come back in next week, and we're not going to leave until we get this job.
Thank you.
I don't, at the end of the day, I think the best thing to happen here is that we're able to get our work done and we don't get any of this. All right, last
Congressman Issa came out and said that both Chairman Jordan and Comer were not able to present anything that was an impeachable offense at this point. Is that an assessment that you share?
You know, impeachment inquiry is not impeachment. So what impeachment inquiry is to do is to get answers to questions. Are you concerned about all the stuff that was just recently learned? Do you have any concern? Have you asked the White House any questions?
Yes.
Okay. Do you believe the president lied to the American public when he said he'd never talked to his son about business dealings? Yes or no? It's all right.
I can't answer that.
You can't answer that? Do you believe when they said the president went on conference calls? Do you believe that happened?
That's what the testimony says.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you believe the president went to Cafe Milano and had dinner with the clients of Hunter Biden, who believes he got those clients because he was selling the brand?
That's what the testimony says.
Okay. Do you believe Hunter Biden, when you saw the video of him driving a Porsche, that he got $143,000 to buy that Porsche the next day? Do you believe the $3 million from the Russian oligarch that was transferred to the shell companies that the Bidens controlled after the dinner from Cafe Milano took place?
So the testimony says.
Okay, then I go back. Do you think the president lied that he...
But is that an impeachable? Is lying an impeachable?
Well, you want to know... I'm not saying impeachment. All I'm saying is I would like to know answers to these questions. The American public like to know, and that's what impeachment inquiry provides.
Thank you.
Do you still think there should be a CR